I love horror. Specifically, I love horror without any jump scares. As I'm really bad with jump scares, I think it's a cheap, easy practice. When there's just a random loud noise or anything like that, I think it's just really boring, honestly. It's not something I personally enjoy. And that's why when I see games like Labyrinth of the Demon King, Sorry We're Close to any of the other ones, I get really interested. They're games that just build tension and they have all of the trappings of a horror game without ever giving you that immediate boo factor, and I like that a lot. And that's also why I think Daemonology is probably one of the best ones up there. Daemonology takes place in a small Scottish village during the Scottish witch trials, where you play the part of a witch finder. You'll have to speak to the locals and you'll have to find out who's the witch. And of course, they will be lying to you. They'll lie you straight into the face because you will have to hang said witch. And now you might be wondering, well, how do I get them to tell the truth? Well, you see, as a witch finder in that time in history, you had a few options available to you. None of them are very nice, so you will be torturing these people. And there are a myriad of torture ways that you will be partaking from. One of them is breaking the thumbs, the other one is ripping their tongues off, you'll needle them, and you can essentially do medieval waterboarding. It's great. I love this game quite a bit, mainly because of how icky it makes me feel, in a good way. You see, it is a horror game, and I like horror games that make me feel uncomfortable or present something unique, and I think Daemonology does so. You have 5 days to find this witch, and each day has 4 turns. The 5th day you will have to pick who is the witch. And you will have that time to decipher who's lying, why, and so on. Or maybe none of them are a witch and you'll just have to pick the worst person that you find. Despite Daemonology's length being just about an hour and a half, I still find a lot of things to enjoy in this game. While replay value is definitely not where it's at either for its short runtime, the visuals is really where it's at. I love exploring the Scottish village, despite the fact that it is very much pixel art and is very much on a more lo-fi style in the sense that there isn't a lot of overstimulation that you'll be seeing here. It's a very minimalist in its approach and all that, and I kinda like it. I like the fact that it's going for this black and white vibe that is honestly sort of creepy while still being able to have some genuine beauty mixed in. A lot of the scenes are more twisted in sometimes a pretty way rather than just being directly disgusting or ew. And each of the NPCs, in my opinion, can also describe this very well. They all have their dark sides and evil things that they have done, and they all will tell you plenitudes of lies before you get the truth out of them. And there might be very real reasons to dislike some of them more than others, but I'll leave that for you to find out, as that is the major part of the game. Daemonology, in addition to all of that, also has these cutscenes between every day. And they are so fucking cool. They are essentially these claymation animations that has been made specifically for the game. And there aren't a lot of them, unfortunately. But the ones that are captivating in just their odd serenity. This is where this twisted beauty really peaks, in my opinion. Some of them are fucking disgusting, I won't lie. There are times when I'm looking at them like, ew. But there are also times when I'm looking at it and I can see beauty within the disgust. They're never pleasant, but they sometimes manage to carry more meaning than you might expect. Each of them also work as a clue of where you could go and search, as each of the areas will be represented with some NPC. And if you know enough about the game and you read all of the text that they sort of give to you when you talk to the different NPCs, you will be able to sometimes decipher these cutscenes and where they sort of lead to. And Daemonology is exactly one of those horror games that I really like, where the entire game is just building tension. The entire time, it's just always building more and more and more tension. And I really like that quite a lot. As the game never jump scares you or anything like that, it's never like there's a huge woo moment. And I think it's quite nice for exactly that reason. As what it means is that often throughout the entire game, it's about atmosphere, it's about the vibe of the game rather than just the direct, spooky, I can make a very loud noise factor. And don't get me wrong, there is audio in this game and it can be really fucking disgusting. especially when you're torturing people, as I imagine it was in real life. I don't think it was a pleasant sound to hear. And in the game, it's very much represented. And I think that's a good thing, because games like this sort of bring to attention these atrocities that we have done to each other as humans, right? Like, these are torture methods that have existed. And a lot of them are really quite disgusting. And they sound ew, they don't feel good to do, like they're all ew. And I think it's important that these are represented in some way through media, just to show that they exist, right? I think it's always a good thing when media shows maybe the darker side of what we have been up to as well. And I think Daemonologie does that really, really well through its, quite frankly, disgusting sound design. Because each of the mini games that come along with this torture sequence isn't scary. It isn't very hard either. It's just incredibly gross. And I think it is gross for a good reason, right? It is gross for exactly the reason that you want it to be gross. It's gross so it can show you that these weren't good things. And I think, again, like I said, it was a great way to do it. And I think cutscenes furthermore add on to that with their grotesque and beautiful designs. And when Daemonologie isn't just really scary or beautiful, it can be heartbreaking too. There are some storylines where you could see that probably happening in real life. It probably did happen at least a few times. As an example, there's a woman that got pregnant and the husband ran away, which this is in the Middle Ages, right? It's pretty early on in humans' history, and as such, she was kind of deemed as a witch. And there were rumors about her of murdering other children in her sorrow, which you can decide for yourself if you think are true. I personally decided against it because, according to her, she was there for medicinal herbs, and she's also been tampering around with herbs and so on. And when you do break under torture, which you can break people, you can make them admit to doing things that they might not have done, or sometimes they'll tell you something that is absolutely true, which in her case, it was spicing up the priest's wine after he did something really horrible to her too. And these sort of things sort of always go hand in hand. It's not a game that is scared to show and talk about really explicit and scary subjects, and I think for that it's great. And I also think another huge benefit and another big reason why you should go and play Daemonologie is that it's quite affordable, and on top of that, it's not very long, so you can pick this up and in one sitting for most people complete the entire game, and you can walk away and you will have had a genuinely good time playing it. It is not a bad game despite its length, and I think it's one of those that will sit atop my really unique artsy games lists. And like with many other games, Daemonologie's soundtrack works hand in hand with its visuals to create this really tense atmosphere the entire time. And I think it's just really fucking well done here. And I think in addition, the way the game goes about its monster hunt, quote unquote, is interesting because it is grounded in reality. And as you and I would probably be able to know if it's grounded in reality, that also means that there isn't a witch, because these weren't real things. These were something that people made up, especially within the church and whatnot back in the day, and essentially were scapegoats. And with a witch trial going on, you know, there's somebody who's done something, and while there isn't a direct monster within Daemonologie, as cliche as it is to say, the real monsters were ourselves all along. As things turns out, there are bad people here. Maybe even people who would hurt other people to get what they want. And there are people you could probably condemn for being the witch, despite the fact that they might not exactly be a witch. They just might be a really, really bad person. And I think there is quite a lot of sort of themes in that, just in and of itself, the entire of, you know, the old religious way of just condemning people, and the way that it would just be somebody reporting somebody else for being a witch that would cause an entire ruckus, where people would get tortured and all of that just because they might not like the person that they're reporting. And that person might not be a witch, and the church might end up not believing that that person is a witch, but it's actually somebody else. Now, to wrap things up, I've linked to the game's store page in the description. It's about €3. I think you should go and check that out. And I've also linked to the game's soundtrack along with all its cutscenes on the creator's official YouTube channel, all down in the description. I think you should go and check both out. The game is very well worth playing. It's not very long. It's not the most expensive game out there. And I think it's a really interesting and fun game to experience with some really interesting ideas. And with all of that being said, I hope you have had a good Spooktober so far, and I hope this video finds you well. I hope you're doing very well, and I hope you have a wonderful day ahead of you. If you've enjoyed the video, please do the YouTube stuff, and I'll see you all in the next one.